Hi, everyone. I'm Maria from Pause Alchemy of Women. One of these days, I'm going to get this Facebook thing right. Um, I've been trying to go live through Zoom and that wasn't working. So here we are. So welcome to today's podcast number 13, Herbs for Menopause. And I want to start by saying, of course, I am not a doctor. I'm a certified herbalist, but not a doctor. So, of course, if any of these plants or herbs interest you, please check with whatever healthcare practitioner you have, doctor, or whatever, especially if you're taking anything like hormone replacement therapy, antidepressants. Some of these can interact. You want to make sure you do your research. So I want to start out by talking about my favorite plant for anything hormonal, really, which is Vitex, which sounds like a chemical, and it is not. Well, it's a chemical, but not an artificial chemical. So it's called Vitex agnus castus. That is its actual scientific name. I have a little jar of it here. So I don't know if you can see, there are these little kind of berries that look like black pepper, actually. And I can put a picture in the comments of what it looks like when it's growing. But anyway, it's a really interesting plant. It's also known as chaste tree berry. It was used years ago for monks in the convent to make you chaste, which is not really accurate. So one of my favorite herbalists, David Hoffman, who I probably have his book somewhere. I don't know if you can see. I have this giant book, Medical Herbalism, was written by him. He was also a teacher at my school. Anyway, he's a medical herbalist and phytotherapist. I'll read it to you. He said, Vitex will always enable what is appropriate to occur. So by that, he means it balances your hormones, but not just in a way where you take a drug and it's to raise estrogen, it's to give you progesterone. Vitex, because this is the magic of plants, it basically enables your system to be balanced in whatever way it needs. So by stimulating the pituitary, it regulates and normalizes hormone production. So that could be the progesterone cycle, the estrogen cycle. It balances both. So this plant can be used for your whole life, really. So if you have problems with your cycle, either having it not come or having really bad PMS or really bad cramps, it can be used, and it can be used to promote fertility. I used it many years ago after going off of birth control pills to regulate my cycle, and I took it for months, and then it helped me for like 20 years. And it's also great for menopause or perimenopause. It can reduce hot flashes, mood swings, depression, anxiety, and even joint pain. So it's taken as a capsule or a tincture. A tincture is an alcohol extract, which I have lots of tinctures. Can you see them? Sorry, it's backwards, the camera. So that's an alcohol extract because it's not the best flavor, I would have to say. So that's just one of my favorite plants that I wanted to start with. And I'm going to talk about that more in a little bit. And I have a lot of notes. I'm someone who makes notes. So let's talk about sleep. So sleep is one thing during menopause that really, really can affect us so much. During normal hormone imbalances, right? So what I mean by that is that, not to say a hormone imbalance, well, it can affect you if it's a hormone imbalance for another thing, but we have a hormone imbalance during perimenopause, and that is actually normal, unfortunately. So the balance of estrogen and progesterone, that is normal as we get older. And also other things that affect sleep are melatonin. Melatonin goes down as we age. And then if we have stress, hot flashes, which of course are a symptom of this hormonal imbalance, but not everyone has them. But if you have hot flashes or night sweats, of course, that's going to affect your sleep. So just to start, honestly, sleep is one of the things that herbs will help, definitely. But we don't like to hear this always, but lifestyle change is really one of the main ways to protect your sleep. And that doesn't have to be, I feel like people are afraid of lifestyle change, but it doesn't always have to be something not fun, right? So things like making your room cool and dark, wearing comfy pajamas, maybe cotton or something light that feels comfortable for you, having regular bedtime. So not like one day you go to bed at 9, the next day you go to bed at 2 in the morning, exercising, but earlier in the morning, getting your body moving, especially if you have a job at a desk or you sit at the computer all the time or you do a lot of sitting, moving. It's like when you're sick, you're kind of laying around, but you're not really tired. So getting your body moving during the day, but earlier in the day, so that doesn't affect your sleep, getting your blood pressure up. Excuse me, hold on a second. I had a giant caffeinated beverage right before we started, which will probably affect my sleep, honestly. Caffeine, of course, alcohol use. If I have a glass of wine, it really affects my sleep, specifically red wine. No electronics for an hour before bedtime. Really, I know it's like you have that habit of just like I just gonna look one more thing. I want to put one more song on. I have that habit too. So no stressful conversations before bed. No working right before bed, I find. And what I've been doing since I was a kid, because I always had a problem falling asleep, is making a list of the things that you're thinking about, the things you need to do, the to-do list, maybe for the day, maybe for the week, who knows? Anything that comes up in your mind before bed, you write it down. And that way, for me, that was always, if I write it down before bed, then I'm like, okay, I can just look at that tomorrow. And then so I don't have to keep the wheels turning of like, oh, you got to remember that. You got to remember that. And then other things like gentle stretching, maybe yoga before bed, soft lights, soft music. Sleep meditations are super helpful for me. Michael Seeley is my favorite. And of course, if you've heard my podcast before, I always talk about yoga nidra, which is amazing for relaxation, calming the nervous system. And so those are just like some lifestyle change ideas. But we need sleep. As people get older, I find that they say, oh, I don't need a lot of sleep. I only need 5 hours. I'm going to call bullshit on that one because it's not true. We really do need sleep. And some of the symptoms of perimenopause, supposedly, or aging, are really often due to not sleeping. So things like anxiety and stress can go up. Depression can increase when you are lacking sleep. Irritability. I know my friends and family can attest to, I'm like a toddler that hasn't slept if I haven't slept. And things like forgetfulness and brain fog, which we associate with getting older or menopause, really can be due because your body needs to sleep. We need sleep. This is part of our thing. You can get more headaches. You're more prone to accidents. Even things like weight gain. Weight gain can increase our not sleeping can increase our cortisol, which then contributes to weight gain. So that's another thing that's supposedly menopause and isn't necessarily so. And increased blood pressure. That can even happen without sleep. So some plants that I love, I love to use these plants in addition to what I said about the lifestyle changes. So for me, I really need a long time of winding down. So I can't be like watching a scary movie or the news or doing anything super active. I don't even work in my apothecary at night because I get like, ooh, I want to think of this and a new tincture to make and all the things. Like, no. Or even reading things that I find super interesting. I need kind of a long time. I write in my journal, I relax in my bed, I listen to some music. And so these herbal remedies can be used in conjunction with these lifestyle changes. So instead of watching TV or looking at your computer or your phone, maybe you do some reading or talking with your partner or something about nothing too stressful. And then one of my favorites is lavender. So if you've seen anything about me before, you know I love lavender. I have a lavender festival, in fact. So lavender is great and one of the favorite herbs of aromatherapists. You can use that in a bath or in a diffuser, the essential oil. You can also use the lavender essential oil to give yourself a foot massage, especially if you're prone to headaches or, you know, really up in your head thinking. It brings the energy down to your feet also to give yourself a foot massage. You can have lavender tea, which can be perfumey for some people, but it can also be as part of a blend. You can make or buy eye pillows that have maybe like they have flaxseed and lavender in them, so they're heavy. That is really nice. Also, that solves the darkness of your room issue. You can also put a lavender sachet, you know, like a little bag of lavender flowers underneath your pillow. And there's also ways to use it internally. So tea, there's some places that have capsules that would be pretty easy to research. But just make sure that if you're going to take it internally, be very careful if you're ingesting essential oils, because they can be hard on your liver, and make sure they're very pure essential oils. Another plant that I love is chamomile, which, you know, sometimes people are resistant to chamomile because they think, oh, it's just a tea bag that my grandmother would use or something. And yes, it is. Your grandmother was right. um, so it's so it's a gentle plant. So even children can use chamomile, unless you have like an extreme allergy to the daisy family, which it's unlikely that it would bother you as a tea. So it's gentle, but it's really strong. It's very calming to the system, both for anxiety and for sleep, but it's not something that's going to knock you out. It's just sort of, it's nice to have the tea and, you know, like I said, reading or listening to music and calming down. My absolute favorite for sleep is passion flower, which I'm sure you've probably seen it before, but it's a very weird, my partner calls it and says it looks like an alien. I can put some pictures of these plants in the comments. Passion flower is often used as a tincture. You can use it as a tea, but it has kind of a funky taste, in my opinion. This is great for sleeplessness that comes with anxiety or overthinking. So I don't really consider myself an anxious person, but I definitely think way too much, especially like the second I lay down, I'm like, what else can I do? And that's where the journal comes in, or the writing down the list. So passion flower, yeah, is usually found as a tincture. And that's something that you can take. I personally wouldn't take it like in the morning because I would feel sleepy. But if you really struggle with insomnia, it's something you can start to take in the afternoon a couple of times, and it just will gently bring you into this more relaxed state. And I know women that even like if you wake up in the middle of the night and can't go back to sleep, you can also take it then. And it's not something that will knock you out. You usually wouldn't feel groggy. And I can tell you more about that if you're interested. Another plant is valerian, which I know. So there's another podcast that I did a couple of weeks ago on herbs for anxiety and sleep. So you can also check that out. I go into these a little more in detail, but valerian is another plant, also another stinky plant that can be used as a tincture. I used to drink a tea of it. It's not too bad. Some people think it tastes like stinky socks or smells like that. I don't know what socks taste like. I've never tasted them. But valerian is something that, you know, if it works for you, it works. And if it doesn't, there's a small amount of people who it kind of makes you think more. So you would have to experiment with that. But that combined with lemon balm, which is in the mint family and has such a nice flavor, is a great sleep aid, especially if you, like if you're an overthinker or anxious, because lemon balm is great for anxiety also. Another plant, which is very strong, it's considered a sedative, which is more than a sleep aid. It's California poppy. Yes, it's related to the poppy used for opium, but it is not the opium poppy. It's the orange state flower of California. And it's quite strong. I use it only when I have a lot of pain. Like I used to have a lot of chronic back pain. And so if you're someone who experiences pain, California poppy could be great for you who experience pain mixed with sleeplessness. But that is, for me, that like knocks me out. So just keep that in mind and experiment when you have some time to yourself with any of these being really groggy in the morning. You can kind of back off on the dosage. Another category of plants, which I know I've talked about before, and I keep saying I'm going to do a whole podcast on it, are the adaptogens. So I imagine that you ladies have heard of ashwagandha. It's a plant more used in Ayurveda, medicine of India. And an adaptogen is a category of plants that have non-specific activity. So they don't like act directly on a system like your respiratory or your nervous system, but they, with their plant magic that is not completely understood yet, they help our bodies adapt to stress. So they're plants that you take over time, and they just create kind of a buffer in your nervous system to be able to, when stressful situations come, they help you to be able to be more resilient. And so ashwagandha is in this category of adaptogens. It's used especially if you have this, they call it tired and wired. So like you want to go to sleep, like maybe all day you're like tired. And then you go to bed and you have that thinking. So as you can hear from what I have said before, I'm in that category. So I take ashwagandha. Um, it's helpful for things like adrenal fatigue, burnout. And so it kind of balances out that tired and wired. So it kind of gives you a little lift during the day and then allows your body to relax. My intuition is that it kind of works on that cortisol spike, which I've talked about in some other videos, where the cortisol is going up, and it should be going up in the middle of the day and then starting to go down as melatonin is going up towards like in the early evening. And so sometimes they're kind of a little mixed, or the cortisol just doesn't have its down. So I have the feeling that it kind of works on this because of that tired and wired feeling. So that should give you some relief in addition to other stress relieving properties that I'll talk about in a minute. And then things like melatonin, capsules, and magnesium. Magnesium really helps, again, also if you have pain or stress, because magnesium helps the nervous system too. In addition to this, I won't talk about this, but if you're really struggling with insomnia, this is a place where hormone replacement therapy can be useful, because like I said, with the list of things that not sleeping can affect, this would be a time where you could, even for a short time, use hormone replacement therapy. If that is something, like I said, that's not something I usually talk about, but, sleep is so important. So like I said, I got my little notes. So now we're going to talk about hot flashes and night sweats. So basically night sweats are things that happen at night that are related to hot flashes, right? So you're in bed and then you start to get all sweaty. These are also known as vasomotor symptoms in the scientific world. I'm sure you know what hot flashes are, at least even if you haven't had them. You start to get super hot here usually, and maybe you get anxiety, maybe you feel stressed, maybe you start sweating, and then after you're cold. So it's really a trick in your hypothalamus that your body is tricked into feeling hotter than it is. And so your body is doing all these things to kind of toss the heat off of your system. And it's not really hot. So basically you're at a comfortable temperature. Your body's like, oh my God, we're too hot, which you're not really. Then it makes you hot because sweating, decreases the heat in your body. So you start sweating. And then so after you have cooled off to a temperature lower than what is your comfortable temperature. So not only is it the sweating that makes you chilled after, it's that you're actually at a lower temperature than what's comfortable for you. So that's also why you feel chilled. So not fun, but also not always the end of the world. I mean, if you're getting, some women do get quite a few per day. And that is unfortunate and is not fun. And also if you have them at night, it makes you not sleep. That's when I would get them more, and I hate it. But I'm convinced that my partner, that he has hot flashes more than I do, because I think when he grabs onto me, then I'm really hot. So some lifestyle changes, in addition to being able to keep calmness in your body when you're stressed. I've mentioned deep breathing before. and, you know, just ways to be kind of more accepting of what's happening in your body, these transitions. You know, so when you get a hot flash, especially if you're out in public or something, finding ways to take a couple of deep breaths to calm down so that it doesn't also, you know, maybe give you a panic attack or increase your anxiety in some way. In addition to that, alcohol and spicy foods or really greasy stuff can contribute to hot flashes. So you want to stay away from those if you're really struggling. So Vitex is one of, again, I told you that was my favorite, one of my favorite plants in general for this, for the hormonal system. That's regulating to your system. So that will usually help with the hot flashes. You know, and hot flashes aren't totally understood even by the medical community. So, you know, we just got to work with what we can. Lemon balm is another that can be, it's a cooling plant, and it also helps with the anxiety piece. Motherwort is another plant that I haven't really talked about. It's a bitter that can be helpful. Black cohosh is what is traditionally used. You can do some research on that. It's not a plant that I use very much. It can be useful in a blend, but there are some precautions with using black cohosh. Licorice is another plant, can be really helpful in reducing hot flashes. I don't mean like red licorice candy. I mean like real actual licorice root. Somewhere back there. You know, it has that sweetness of licorice and the flavor, but it's not, unless you get like real, like there's some German candies that you could use that could be possibly help. But best is the actual root. The one precaution with licorice is that it can raise your blood pressure. I have really low blood pressure, so it's actually helpful for me, but that's something to just be aware of. If you have high blood pressure, you don't want to use that. And then hops and sage. So even the culinary sage, these are two plants that can really reduce hot flashes. Hops that would be in beer. I'm not suggesting you have beer, but you can. These two plants are considered estrogenic. So if you have any estrogen receptor positive cancers in your past, those plants would not work for you. So just keep that in mind. Some other plants, I'd love to talk about maca because I live in Peru. Sorry, spider. Maca is a root that is from Peru it's used traditionally here for menopausal symptoms and libido. Ginseng is another, but that can affect your sleep. So if you have ginseng or maca, you want to have those in the morning. And maca can be put in your smoothie. Just be aware that sometimes it can make your stomach a little weird. So it doesn't go with everyone. So start small I put powder in my smoothie, but I've been having maca for 15 years, so it doesn't affect me. Again, valerian is another. So do you see how some of these are like great for sleep and also great for hot flashes? So if valerian is a plant that works for you for sleep, you can also use it for hot flashes. And then there's some research about rhubarb extract and pine bark extract, which can be helpful. So those are not things that I'm super familiar with, but I have heard them to be helpful. So if you want to research that. And then things like eating good fats, like we're so afraid of fat, but actually if you're underweight, it's shown that potentially you could have more hot flashes. So we're women, we're naturally supposed to have more fat than men, even if we don't want to think that, but we should have more fat. And good fats, I'm talking about like nice olive oils, coconut oil, avocados, flax, nuts and seeds, and more vegetables is always super helpful, of course. Where to go next? Mood swings. So I'm just going to be honest here. I've been having some mood swings, girls. And it's funny. So I have this whole giant apothecary, but do I take the plants? Often no. You know, like doctors are always the worst patients, teachers are always the worst students, herbalists are often the worst clients of herbalism. So just today, I restarted my Vitex. I've also started taking feverfew, which is a plant that can be super helpful for migraines that you take consistently. I have, over the last few years, have been getting some menstrual migraines. And now it's worse because it has to do with the drop of estrogen usually. And I also had a beer yesterday. So beer is not my friend. Beer gives me immediate headache, like for many years, but I still will occasionally want one and then I'm sorry. So, don't do that to yourself. So mood swings, I'm sure you know what they are, but if you don't, things like you're happy one minute and then you want to cry, or someone says one little thing to you. I cried the other day in the restaurant because I knocked over my glass and it broke on the table and I was embarrassed, which I'm not usually embarrassed about stuff like that. And I had to go to the bathroom and cry. Rage that comes up, irritability, and the lifestyle changes for that would be things like all the stress relief things. So meditation, yoga, sleeping well, exercise, any sort of things that you consider in the category of self-care, having alone time, spending time in nature, getting a therapist if that's something you need. I have two. Keeping your blood sugar stable. So looking into ways to do that, especially if you like, I have a little bit of a bit of blood sugar fluctuations, which, can lead to diabetes in the future. So you want to be careful with that, but also really stabilizing your mood with eating regularly, specifically, and being careful with your sugar. And then communication, right? So recently this week, just to give you an example of my life, my partner, I mean, he, like I always say, he's the man we're most well-versed in menopause in the whole world. And he has his moments, but of not being awesome, but he has really stepped up in this experience for me because he can see, when something is happening in my mood that is not my normal way, like either I look like I'm gonna cry or I start to get mad. And so because of our communication that we've brought in over this past year, I guess probably, of like, hey, listen, this is what it feels like when my hormones are off. This is what it feels like right before I get my period. This is what it feels like when I feel like I can't control my mood, and sometimes it is because he's saying something that I don't like, but that communication, he's become more open to me having a little bit of a mood swing and trying to calm me down in a way that doesn't calm down, because I used to post a meme. I posted a meme a couple of times of like, no woman in the history of women has ever calmed down by being told to calm down. So don't say that, men. But, helping me and having a little bit of patience, and then, being able to accept my apology if I have overreacted in some way. So communication is key, I think. And then as far as some plants, things like I mentioned before, so, anything that is for stress or for sleep often is for mood swings. So things like lavender, lemon balm, and chamomile, they can really be mood stabilizers, even though they're gentle, nice plants that you drink as tea. They are really powerful also. St. John's wort is something that I love, which is also for anxiety and depression. But be careful if you are taking other medicines. You want to, St. John's wort is one of the herbs that can interact with other medications. So be aware of that, but not in an afraid way. Ashwagandha comes in here again, that adaptogen that I talked about. Kava kava is a plant from the Polynesian islands that can be used also, with a little bit of caution as well. And then Vitex and black cohosh can also be as part of this mood swing, because all of this is coming like from your hormones doing this exciting wave that it's decided to do, so that you can bring that in here also. Also, Rescue Remedy from the Bach flower essences. It's a flower essence, so it's not really ingesting the plant material. It's an energetic essence. If you haven't heard about these, you can look into them. And it's really something that helps. So I put it in a lot of like if I have a stress blend that I make for someone, I put these little drops of Rescue Remedy in that. So you can look into that also. And then maca again, and also vitamin D can be helpful. So hold on, this is a lot of information to tell you. It's not hard. My mom would say it's not hard for me to talk for half an hour. So speaking of dryness of the throat, we're going to talk about dryness of everywhere. So this, I feel like, dryness in our system is something that it's kind of made fun of in the perimenopause world. Like, oh, you're going to be an old, dried up lady. And it's scary. You don't want to think about being a dried up old lady. And of course, everyone, men included, any gender of any kind, we start drying up as we get older, but it's not as drastic or as desperate as what a lot of sitcoms and movies and things would allow you to believe. So, one of the reasons for this is the potent form of estrogen, which is estradiol, starts to decrease as we go through perimenopause. And that's integral for our systems because it maintains blood flow, moisture, elasticity, and the microbiome of our vaginas, right? So that's important. And it is a thing that happens, but certain things will help it. So using mild soaps in the shower, no douching. Please tell me I don't have to tell you that. Please don't ever do that. Hopefully we're not in the 70s anymore. So hopefully you're not douching. If you are, please stop and look it up as to why you shouldn't. Using gentle detergents, so natural detergents when you wash your clothes, because if your underwear is being washed with some, really strong Tide or something really perfumed, that can really affect you and dry out your system. Avoiding tampons if you still have your cycle at this time, and also switching to natural products. I don't necessarily mean not products like cloth products or anything like that necessarily, but if you want to minimally change, using products that don't have bleach in them specifically, so more natural. And then again, eating high quality nuts and seeds and oils, lots of water. And then, the topic of lubrication. So using things like coconut oil can be a natural thing. You want to stay away from, you want to be really careful about other lubrications that have things like silicone and things like that in them. They can actually wind up hurting you more than helping you. So in the moment they can hurt you, but then they stick around for a while and can cause infection. And I've been reading a lot about products with hyaluronic acid, which is hard to say. They're good. That's popular in face products now, but it comes from natural sources, vegetables and other things, fruits and vegetables. So looking for a product that is natural and has that acid in it would be super helpful. And again, Vitex comes in here as another player, as well as hormone replacement therapy. If that's something you really struggle with, at least even as a last resort or as a bridge to get to your system to a place where you can use natural products. And then let's talk about communication again, because, dryness is, maybe some days that's a problem, some days it isn't. And communicating with your partner about what you're available for, because you definitely don't want to force anything to happen. I don't mean force, but like make yourself do something that you're not ready for. Telling your partner you need more foreplay. I think you can say foreplay on Facebook. Getting yourself more ready. Maybe you've been with someone for a long time and you didn't need a lot of time before, but maybe now you do. Maybe you want to strengthen your relationship emotionally, because women are such emotional beings when it comes to sex. And I think Abby and I talked about this on our podcast a couple weeks ago or last week. We want to feel connected. We want to feel connected to our partners. And so sometimes it's not just, maybe it starts as a physical issue that you need more, but it doesn't have to stay that way. It doesn't have to just be physical, and if you're communicating with your partner and explaining your needs as to what you need, if you need more time, if you need lubrication, and also knowing that sex is not just penetration. You can do other sexy things. You can talk sexy in your bed. You can just be naked with each other. You can give each other massages, anything that feels sexy to you. And it doesn't have to be actual physical penetration, right? And also sometimes you don't want to, and that is perfectly okay. So listen to yourself. And so just the last thing I'll talk about is libido, because that's what we call it. But Abby and I were talking the other day about how we don't like that word. It feels very like sex drive and libido, like go for it, anyway, but that's the word we have for now. And so here the libido and the vaginal dryness can be linked. Some of it, like I said, is physical, but we can make ourselves a little more interested if you want to. If you don't want to, a couple of weeks ago when I talked to my friend Amy, she felt liberated from this, like, oh, I want to have sex in this person and I need a man to do this. And well, we don't all need a man, but for her. And it can be liberating to have your libido go away for some women if that's not something you want to continue doing. But if you do want to continue doing it, I would say the first piece is the piece of communication, knowing yourself, talking to your partner about what you need, really getting to know your own needs. And you can also check out that podcast with Abby Collins, which was great. And we talked about this a lot. And also Monica Ballard. We also talked about that on that podcast. So as far as herbs go, ashwagandha, again, coming in as a player, as well as maca. Maca in Peru is known as an aphrodisiac and for male impotence and etc. So also for women. Another aphrodisiac traditionally used is damiana. It's another plant that you can look at. Damiana, I love to make a cordial, so an alcohol cordial that is kind of has a sexy feel to it. So Damiana rose and chocolate. So that's a product because it's kind of fun, and so you could have that before, or if you're on a date with your partner, you can have a fun drink that will also potentially be an aphrodisiac, or even if you just talk about it being an aphrodisiac, maybe it is. Shatavari or shatavari is an Ayurvedic plant that is called the queen of herbs, which is known for increasing women's reproductive health and libido and ganas, as you would say in Spanish. Ginkgo biloba, which is a blood flow enhancer. It's great for the brain and memory function, and as well as blood flow anywhere. In India, Turkey, Persia, Egypt, those type of places, fenugreek, which is a spice, that they use in curries and things, has also been known to increase lady libido. And then vitamins like B, E, C, omega-3s. So, and again, communication. Sorry, I'm just seeing these comments now because maca is very good for men. Yeah. So that is one of the traditional, it's more traditional. I mean, men and women always have maca here in Peru, but that's what it's like marketed as, like man libido and helping blood flow to men's systems. So that is my take on the plants for menopause. Of course, there's so much more information that I can give you. I see that it's almost 40 minutes already that I talked by myself. So if you would like to know more about any of these plants, I'm happy to answer any of your questions. I also do private herb consultations. And in my 6-week program coming up in October, Menopause Boot Camp, we'll be talking more about these plants and others in different ways to kind of overcome some of these challenges with menopause. So I'll be posting more about that soon. And in my upcoming masterclass. So I hope you enjoyed this. And yeah, as you know, I'm a lover of plants, but also consult your healthcare practitioner. So thank you so much. Thanks for watching.